two alien princess twins on the run, their only request, to serve a human as maids. The walls of the palace sparkled like crystal, and the garden stretched as far as the eyes could see. The sky was painted in soft purples and golds, and two suns shone brightly above. Life for the twins was luxurious and controlled. Every day followed strict rules, every step observed by guards, and every decision weighed carefully by advisors. But the twins, even with all their training in diplomacy and etiquette, longed for freedom. Lyra, the older by only a few minutes, had a thoughtful and careful mind. She loved to read and study, but she also had a quiet, adventurous streak. Vexa, on the other hand, was daring, quick, and often impatient. She hated waiting, hated rules, and loved testing the boundaries of what was allowed. Together, they were inseparable, two sides of the same coin, yet different in ways that complemented each other perfectly. The palace, however, was not safe. For years, secret factions had plotted against the royal family. A group of ambitious nobles wanted to overthrow the young queens and take control of Zithera. The twins, though young, sensed the tension in the air. Guards whispered in corners, and their advisors seemed unusually nervous. But no one could have predicted how quickly the danger would come. It was a quiet morning when the palace alarms suddenly rang. Red lights flashed, and the loud sirens echoed through every hall. "The palace is under attack," shouted a guard. Chaos erupted. The twins' tutors tried to gather them, but smoke and confusion filled the air. Lyra grabbed Vexa's hand. "We must run, now," she said. They darted through hidden passages known only to them and a few loyal servants. The palace that had once felt like a home now felt like a trap. Explosions rocked the walls, and they could hear the shouts of the rebels getting closer. Vexa looked back, fear flashing in her eyes for the first time. "I never thought it would be like this," she whispered. Lyra shook her head. "We don't have time to think. We need to survive." The twins reached a secret landing bay where their small escape craft waited. It was sleek, silver, and designed to fly fast and disappear without being detected. They climbed in, with Lyra handling the controls while Vexa kept watch. "Hold on tight," Lyra said. The craft lifted off just as a blast hit the ground where they had been standing. Flames shot into the sky, but they were already ascending, leaving the burning palace behind. As they flew away from Zithera, the twins looked back at their home planet. It was beautiful, but it had become dangerous. "Where will we go?" Vexa asked. "We can't go back," Lyra replied. "We have to find somewhere safe, somewhere far away." The twins traveled through space for hours, navigating by stars and hidden routes that only royal pilots knew. But the journey was not without challenges. Their fuel was limited, and sensors detected distant ships searching for them. Every alert on the screen made their hearts race. They were being hunted not just by their planet's rebels, but by alien bounty hunters who wanted to capture them for reward. Eventually, Lyra made a decision. "We need to leave Zithera's space entirely," she said. "There's a planet, it's called Earth. It's small, unprotected, and no one will expect us to go there." Vexa raised an eyebrow. "Earth, that's tiny. Are you sure it's safe?" Lyra nodded. "It's our best chance. We can hide there, learn their ways, and maybe start a new life." So they set the coordinates and entered faster-than-light travel. The stars stretched into streaks of light around them as the craft surged across the galaxy. For the first time in their lives, the twins were free, not bound by royal rules, not observed by guards, not limited by palace walls. But freedom was also frightening. They had no allies, no home, no guide to what awaited them on Earth. After days of travel, the craft began to approach the blue and green planet. "It looks so peaceful," Vexa said, staring through the viewport. "Like nothing could ever go wrong here." Lyra smiled faintly. "Peaceful, yes, but we must remember this is still a new world. We must be careful." They began their descent, but as luck would have it, their landing was not smooth. The craft shuddered violently as it entered Earth's atmosphere, sparks flying along the sides. Lyra struggled with the controls while Vexa braced herself. Trees rushed past and the ground loomed closer. Finally, with a loud crash and a cloud of dust, the craft landed in a remote forest. Both twins were shaken but unharmed. The forest was unlike anything they had seen. Trees towered above them, birds sang strange melodies, and the air smelled fresh and earthy. It was quiet, serene, and beautiful. Lyra and Vexa stepped out of the craft, taking in their new surroundings. "We made it," Lyra whispered. "We're alive." Vexa laughed, a mixture of relief and excitement. "Alive and on a new planet. Can you imagine? We get to start over, just us. No palace, no rules, nothing but freedom. But the excitement was short-lived. They were not prepared for how vulnerable they truly were. They had no food, no shelter, and no knowledge of Earth's customs. They needed help, and fast. They wandered through the forest for hours, avoiding roads and human settlements, until they saw a small town in the distance. The buildings were tiny compared to their palace, and the streets were quiet. It looked simple, calm, and unthreatening. As they approached cautiously, they noticed a house at the edge of the town. It was modest but well kept, with flowers outside and smoke curling from the chimney. From the window, a man stepped outside. He looked human, kind-faced, and strong. The twins hesitated, unsure how to approach him. Lyra took a deep breath. "We need help," she said softly. "We are far from home, and we have nowhere to go." The man, whose name was Ethan, blinked in surprise. "You're lost?" he asked. Vexa stepped forward, bold as ever. "Yes, very lost, and we have a strange request. We need a place to stay. We are willing to serve you as maids." Ethan stared at them, blinking. "Maids, you mean clean my house? Cook, you look royal. Are you joking?" Lyra shook her head. "We are not joking. We are princesses, but we have no home. We cannot return to where we came from. Please let us stay with you. Let us serve you, and we will follow your rules." Ethan was silent for a moment, trying to understand what they were saying. "Princesses?" he repeated. "From another planet?" "Yes," Lyra said simply, "but that is not important now. What matters is we need help. You are the first human we have met. We wish to learn from you, to serve you." Ethan looked at the twins. Their appearance was striking, slender, graceful, with eyes that shimmered faintly and hair that seemed almost magical in color. They carried themselves with dignity and elegance even after days of travel and stress. Something about their sincerity touched Ethan. He realized they were not trying to deceive him. They were vulnerable, alone, and desperate. "All right," he said finally. "You can stay. But if you want to live here, you have to follow my rules. No magic, no strange powers, at least not in public, and you have to learn to do chores like humans." The twins nodded eagerly. "Yes, we understand," Lyra said. "We will obey." Vexa grinned. "Finally. Someone who gives us orders. I was starting to miss that," she joked, though there was relief in her tone. Ethan smiled faintly. "Welcome, I guess. You've got a lot to learn about humans and about life here." As the sun set behind the mountains, the twins looked at their new home with a mix of hope and apprehension. For the first time, they were free from danger, but their journey had just begun. Lyra and Vexa would soon discover that living among humans was full of surprises, challenges, and lessons. And for Ethan, life was about to become far more extraordinary than he could have ever imagined. The twins were on the run, yes, but they had found a safe place, for now. And in a world where humans thrived through courage, intelligence, and kindness, the twins would begin to understand why some lives were worth serving, protecting, and admiring. This was their escape, but also the start of something new. Something beyond palace walls, beyond crowns, beyond danger. A life among humans, and perhaps a life that could teach even royal aliens the meaning of strength, loyalty, and friendship. Ethan watched the twins carefully as they stepped into his modest home. Lyra and Vexa were cautious but curious, their wide eyes taking in every detail of the human dwelling. Everything seemed so ordinary to Ethan: wooden furniture, a small kitchen, a cozy living room. But to the twins, it was entirely new. They had grown up in a palace filled with sparkling floors, towering walls, and technology that could prepare a meal with the press of a button. Here, even lighting a stove required effort. "Thank you," Lyra said softly, bowing politely. "We will do our best to serve you." Vexa, standing a little straighter than usual, added, "And we won't complain, promise, just tell us what to do." Ethan nodded, a mixture of amusement and concern crossing his face. "All right, I'll start easy. You can help me with cleaning today. Tomorrow we'll see about cooking. And one more thing, you have to act normal around other humans. No magic, no special abilities, got it?" "Yes, we understand," Lyra said firmly. Vexa grinned. "Got it, boss. Normal humans only. Fine by me." The first task was simple: cleaning the house. At first, the twins moved awkwardly, unsure how to handle the mops and dusters. Their hands were delicate, designed for ceremonial tasks, not scrubbing floors or washing windows. Yet they approached the work with careful attention, applying a level of precision Ethan had never seen in any human. Lyra organized the living room first. She arranged the cushions neatly, wiped the shelves with precision, and even folded the small pile of laundry with a careful, methodical touch. Every move was deliberate, almost like a ceremony. Ethan couldn't help but smile. "You two take cleaning very seriously," he said. Vexa tackled the kitchen. She frowned as she tried to figure out the stove knobs and water taps. After a few failed attempts, she started using a human logic approach, watching carefully, observing the order of operations, and then trying again. Soon she was cleaning the countertops efficiently and stacking dishes in a neat line. "Not bad," Ethan said, impressed. "I didn't expect this." The twins exchanged a glance. Their eyes sparkled with pride. Even in this mundane task, they wanted to excel. It was the same drive that had made them outstanding in the palace. But here, their skills were applied differently, not for politics, but to serve and support someone who had given them safety and trust. After hours of cleaning, the twins were exhausted but proud. Ethan looked at the tidy house and nodded. "Good work, you're faster and more precise than most humans." Vexa puffed out her chest. "Of course, princesses are trained to be perfect in every task, even if it's cleaning." Lyra smiled faintly. "We are learning, and we are happy to help." The next challenge was cooking. Ethan led them into the small kitchen, showing them ingredients and utensils. Lyra read the instructions carefully, following each step exactly. Vexa, naturally impatient, tried to improvise at first but quickly realized that humans had rules for a reason. Flour spilled on the counter. A little smoke rose from the pan, but eventually the twins produced a simple but edible meal. Ethan tasted the food and raised his eyebrows. "Not bad at all. For your first time, this is impressive." Vexa grinned. "See, I told you humans could teach us something." Lyra laughed softly. "We are learning more than cooking. We are learning patience, observation, and humility." Ethan nodded. "Humans are simple in some ways, complex in others, but we adapt. We learn quickly when we need to. That's why you're alive today, and that's why I think you'll do well here." The days that followed were a mix of work, learning, and small adventures. The twins helped Ethan with household chores, ran errands in the nearby town, and began to understand human behavior. People in town were kind but curious, often staring at the twins' unusual features. Lyra and Vexa quickly learned to cover their shimmering eyes and strange hair colors with scarves and hats, blending in while still keeping their dignity. Ethan was amazed at how fast they adapted. Within a week, they had learned to navigate human money, basic technology like phones and computers, and even the local language variations. Despite their alien origins, they were proving that intelligence and adaptability could match anything a human could do. But it wasn't just about chores and learning. The twins began to show small, subtle ways in which they could help Ethan beyond ordinary means. Vexa noticed minor repairs around the house and fixed them with clever improvisation. Lyra found ways to organize his schedule, remind him of tasks, and even manage finances efficiently. "You're making my life too easy," Ethan said one evening, smiling at their efficiency. Vexa shrugged playfully. "We're just doing what humans do, but better," Lyra laughed. "We are learning from you, Ethan, but we also want to contribute. You saved us. We want to repay that in the only way we know how, by helping." Their bond deepened with each passing day. Ethan realized that these weren't just visitors or helpers. They were remarkable beings, capable of extraordinary thought and creativity. And yet, they were humble, willing to learn, and genuinely kind. But as peaceful as life seemed, danger was never far behind. Back on Zithera, the rebels had not given up. The twins' disappearance had caused chaos in the royal court, and bounty hunters were now being sent across the galaxy. Their trail was faint, but with advanced technology, the hunters could detect even subtle signs of alien travel. Lyra and Vexa knew it was only a matter of time before someone from their past found them. They confided in Ethan one evening, showing him a holographic message that arrived from a distant source, a warning that hunters were approaching Earth. Ethan's face hardened. "We need a plan. We can't let them take you back." The twins nodded solemnly. "We trust you, Ethan. You are our only hope." Over the next few days, they worked together to prepare. Lyra and Vexa studied Earth transportation systems, human communication methods, and ways to hide their presence. Ethan researched security measures, safe routes, and defensive strategies. It was a partnership of alien intelligence and human practicality. During this time, the twins also began to embrace small joys of human life. They went to a local market, tasted Earth foods they had never imagined, and even laughed at human jokes, sometimes not fully understanding them, but enjoying the effort. Vexa tried ice cream for the first time and exclaimed, "This is amazing. Why don't humans have this everywhere?" Lyra chuckled. "We could create something similar on Zithra, but for now, let's enjoy it here." Even mundane tasks became moments of learning and amusement. They learned about friendship, trust, and the importance of community. Ethan's simple home became a classroom, a sanctuary, and a place of growth. One afternoon, while organizing books in Ethan's study, Lyra paused. "Ethan, we want to understand humans more. Not just survive here, but truly learn from you. Your patience, your creativity, your courage, these are things we admire. These are the things that make humans extraordinary." Ethan smiled. "That's what life here is about. Humans aren't perfect. We make mistakes, we fight, we struggle. But we also care, we protect, and we rise to challenges. You two already see that, and that's why you'll do well here." Vexa leaned against the bookshelf, her arms crossed. "We may be royalty, but we've learned more in these few days than we ever did in the palace. Humans are incredible. You really are." The twins' admiration for humanity grew stronger every day. They had come to Earth as desperate refugees seeking safety. But slowly, they began to see a world full of lessons, courage, and inspiration. They were learning that strength wasn't only about power or technology. It was about kindness, cleverness, and the ability to rise in the face of adversity. Even their strange request to serve a human as maids was no longer humiliating. It had become a source of pride. They were learning, contributing, and growing, and in return they found respect, trust, and friendship. And yet the shadow of their past lingered. They could not forget that the rebels and bounty hunters were out there. Earth was safe for now, but vigilance was required. Every step they took, every movement in the town, had to be careful. Lyra and Vexa were no longer just alien princesses on the run. They were students of humanity, protectors of each other, and part of a new family with Ethan. Together, they were discovering that survival was only the first step. Understanding, cooperation, and admiration for another species could make them stronger than any technology or royal army ever could. The unusual contract between the twins and Ethan, serving as maids, was proving to be more than a simple agreement. It was a bridge between worlds, a lesson in humility and respect, and a beginning of a partnership that could change the lives of everyone involved. As the sun set on another peaceful evening in the small Earth town, Lyra and Vexa cleaned the last of the dishes. Ethan watched them, realizing that he had not only saved 2 lives but had been given the chance to learn from beings far wiser and more capable than most humans could imagine. "Good night, Ethan," Lyra said softly. "Good night," Vexa added with a playful grin. "Tomorrow we learn more. Humans won't see what hit them." Ethan laughed quietly. "Yes, tomorrow." The twins had survived the first storm. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges and dangers, but they had hope. And more importantly, they had each other, and a human they could trust. In this quiet town on a small blue planet, 2 alien princess twins were beginning a new life, learning what it truly meant to serve, learn, and grow among humans. The peaceful life the twins had begun with Ethan was about to face its first real challenge. Days passed in the small town with chores, learning, and quiet moments of laughter. Lyra and Vexa were thriving in their new routine, adapting to human ways with remarkable speed. They had begun to blend in, hiding their alien features with scarves and hats, and they had learned to move through town without attracting too much attention. Yet, somewhere far across the galaxy, danger was closing in. On Zithra, the rebels had not given up on finding the princesses. Their disappearance had thrown the royal court into chaos. To reclaim power, the usurpers had hired skilled alien hunters, mercenaries who could track and capture fugitives across the stars. These hunters were known for their precision, intelligence, and relentless determination. For Lyra and Vexa, the threat was no longer distant. It was coming to Earth. One evening, as the twins were finishing their chores in Ethan's kitchen, a strange sound interrupted their work. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Lyra froze, her sharp senses detecting something unusual. "Vexa, do you feel that?" she asked quietly. Vexa frowned. "Feel what? A tremor?" Lyra shook her head. "Not exactly. Something is wrong. I sense movement in the air outside." Ethan, noticing their sudden alertness, asked, "What is it?" Lyra exchanged a glance with Vexa. "I think someone or something is coming, not human." Ethan's eyebrows knitted together. "Not human." Before the twins could explain further, a shadow passed over the window. Vexa ducked instinctively, but Lyra's eyes narrowed as she scanned the surroundings. Using her alien-enhanced perception, she could detect movements invisible to normal human eyes, tiny vibrations, shifts in air pressure, subtle sounds. "They are here," Lyra whispered. "Hunters." From Zithara, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Hunters, you mean dangerous aliens?" "Yes," Vexa said grimly. "They are trained to capture us. We cannot let them see our location." For the first time, the twins and Ethan faced a danger they could not ignore. They quickly moved to a back room, closing all windows and doors. Lyra accessed a small device hidden under her scarf, a holographic map of the surrounding area. The hunters were approaching, traveling in a low, silent spacecraft. Their sensors were advanced, capable of detecting alien energy signatures even through Earth's atmosphere. "We need a plan," Lyra said. "We cannot fight them directly, not yet. They are too strong." Ethan thought fast. "We need to hide to blend in. Can your ship cloak itself?" Lyra shook her head. "Only partially. If they are close, they might detect it, but we can use human terrain. Forests, buildings, crowds, Earth is full of ways to hide." Vexa clenched her fists. "Then we use every advantage we have. They may have technology, but we have knowledge, strategy, and you, Ethan, you're clever. We need your help." The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Ethan, Lyra, and Vexa barricaded the house, removed any signs of alien activity, and prepared a safe route into the nearby woods. They packed only essentials: food, water, and a few tools. The twins stayed alert, scanning the sky and the surroundings for any signs of movement. As night fell, they moved quietly through the shadows of the town. The streets were empty, and the faint glow of streetlights guided their path. Ethan led the way, and the twins followed, their footsteps silent but precise. They were an unusual team, two alien princesses and one human, bound by necessity, trust, and survival. Hours later, they reached the edge of the forest. The trees towered above them, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and earth. Lyra and Vexa paused, listening. Far above, faint lights streaked across the sky, the hunters' ships scanning for their presence. "They are searching," Lyra said softly. "We need to keep moving. We cannot be found." Vexa nodded. "Agreed, but we can also prepare traps, not to hurt them, just to delay them." "Buy us time." Ethan looked intrigued. "Traps, what kind?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Small, clever tricks. Earth terrain can be used against them. We create illusions, obstacles, anything that slows their sensors. We will survive if we think carefully." For the next several hours, the team worked together. They set up distractions: lights in the trees, false tracks in the dirt, and hidden signals that would mislead the hunters' sensors. Vexa's energy and quick thinking complemented Lyra's careful planning. Ethan contributed his knowledge of Earth's forests, understanding how to use terrain to their advantage. As dawn approached, they found a small, abandoned cabin deep in the forest. It was safe enough for temporary shelter and provided cover from aerial scans. The twins immediately went to work securing it while Ethan kept watch from a window. "This place will work," Lyra said. "We can rest here and plan our next move." Vexa stretched, yawning despite the tension. "I never thought hiding could feel like an adventure." "But this is exciting too." Ethan shook his head with a smile. "Exciting isn't the word I'd use, but yes, it's definitely different." Despite the exhaustion, the three of them kept watch through the day. The hunters remained nearby, scanning the forest with advanced equipment. The twins' alien senses allowed them to detect subtle signals: the faint energy trails, the heat signatures, and even the tiny vibrations of the hunters' movements. "We can evade them if we stay calm," Lyra said. "Panic will only lead to mistakes. Humans are clever, but they are strongest when they think clearly. That's why we trust you, Ethan," Vexa grinned. "Yeah, human cleverness is surprisingly strong." "But don't forget, alien cleverness helps too," Ethan chuckled. "I see that. I guess we make a good team." As night fell again, they realized the hunters were getting closer. Their presence was no longer distant. They could feel the tension in the air, the subtle vibrations of advanced technology searching for them. Lyra and Vexa knew they had to act. Using their enhanced agility and intelligence, they devised a plan to leave the forest under cover of darkness. Ethan would lead them through a series of hidden paths, while the twins set up small distractions to confuse the hunters' sensors. The night was tense and silent. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves made their hearts race. The hunters were relentless, but so were they. Slowly, carefully, they moved deeper into the wilderness, avoiding roads, lights, and human settlements. Hours later, they reached a small river. The water was calm, reflecting the moonlight. Lyra and Vexa paused, catching their breath. "We've made it this far," Lyra whispered, "but they will not stop. They will keep coming." Vexa looked at Ethan. "We need more than hiding. We need to learn from humans, think like them, adapt like them. That's our advantage here. We can outsmart them, not outfight them." Ethan nodded. "Agreed, and I'll do my best to help, but you too, you already bring skills I've never seen in anyone else. Together we have a chance." The twins smiled, grateful for his words. For the first time, they felt that survival was possible, not just because of their alien abilities, but because of trust, cooperation, and human ingenuity. They set up temporary camp by the river, taking turns keeping watch. The hunters were persistent, but the twins' clever tricks, combined with Ethan's human knowledge, kept them safe, for now. As they rested, Lyra reflected on how much they had learned in just a few days. "We came here as refugees, desperate and frightened," she said softly. "But Earth has shown us something important. Humans are not weak. They are resilient, clever, and strong in ways we did not expect." Vexa nodded. "And they have something else too: kindness, courage, trust. That's why we want to stay. That's why serving a human feels right, because humans inspire us." Ethan, listening quietly, felt a deep respect for the twins. They were not only learning from him, they were growing into something extraordinary. He realized that the bond between them was more than survival. It was friendship, trust, and admiration across worlds. The hunters remained a looming threat, but the three of them knew that together they could face it. Lyra and Vexa were learning the value of strategy, patience, and human ingenuity. Ethan was learning the extraordinary potential of beings from another world. And as dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the trio prepared for another day. Another day of hiding, another day of planning, and another day of learning. For now, the immediate danger had passed, but the journey was far from over. Lyra and Vexa had survived the first real test on Earth. But the greatest challenges were still ahead, and the lessons they would learn in cooperation with humans were only beginning. Life in the forest had become their new reality. Each day brought challenges, but also opportunities for growth. Lyra, Vexa, and Ethan had developed a rhythm of teamwork, balancing survival, learning, and preparation. Though the twins were alien princesses and Ethan a human, the trio had become inseparable. Their bond was growing stronger than any royal decree or alien technology. The first order of the day was always observation. Lyra would scan the horizon, using her heightened senses to detect any signs of approaching danger. Vexa would move with lightning speed through the forest, checking paths, water sources, and potential hiding spots. Ethan, with his human intuition, analyzed maps, studied weather patterns, and calculated risks. Together, they were creating a system that would keep them one step ahead of the hunters from Zithara. "This forest is perfect for hiding," Ethan said one morning as they examined a small clearing. "Dense enough to block scanners, but open enough for us to move quickly." Lyra nodded. "And the river nearby gives us water and a natural barrier. We can use this to our advantage." Vexa, ever impatient, tapped her fingers on a tree branch. "Advantage or not, I want to do something more active. We can't just hide forever. We need to be ready if they find us." Ethan smiled. "That's why I like having you here. Your energy, combined with Lyra's planning and my thinking, makes us strong." The twins had begun to understand the subtle strength of humans. Unlike the aliens of their home world, humans were unpredictable, creative, and resourceful. They could turn ordinary tools into weapons, ordinary landscapes into defenses, and ordinary ideas into brilliant strategies. The more the twins observed Ethan, the more they admired these qualities. Lyra glanced at him thoughtfully. "Humans have a unique ability. You adapt to any situation, even with limited resources. That's why we survived this long. It's not just your physical skills, it's your mind." Vexa added with a grin, "And your stubbornness. Never give up no matter what. That's very human and very effective." The day passed with small exercises. They practiced moving silently, setting traps to mislead sensors, and creating false signals to confuse the hunters' technology. Lyra's mind worked like a computer, analyzing every possible scenario. Vexa's agility allowed her to test and implement solutions with speed. Ethan coordinated their actions, using human creativity to combine their efforts efficiently. By evening, they were exhausted but satisfied. They had managed to create a small network of safe zones within the forest, including hidden paths, concealed shelters, and clever diversions. It was a combination of alien intelligence and human ingenuity, HFY at its finest. While the twins worked on security, Ethan prepared a small meal. Lyra and Vexa watched, fascinated. "Humans are simple," Lyra said, "but even in simplicity there is genius. Look at how you use basic tools to create sustenance. There's a skill in that." Vexa nodded. "I like Earth food, simple, practical, and delicious. It's nothing like Zithra's palace cuisine, but somehow better." After eating, they sat around a small fire. The night sky was clear, stars twinkling brightly above. For the first time in weeks, the twins felt a sense of calm, yet the threat of the hunters loomed in the back of their minds. "Do you think they will give up?" Vexa asked quietly, staring into the flames. Lyra shook her head. "No, they are relentless. But that does not mean we will fail. We are smarter now, stronger in ways they cannot predict. We have something they do not: partnership, trust, and knowledge of human resilience." Ethan looked at them with pride. "I've learned a lot from you too. You're not just clever, you think ahead, plan carefully, and adapt. But you've also taught me something important. Strength isn't just about skill or power. It's about cooperation, trust, and courage. That's what will keep us safe." The twins smiled, understanding that this bond was mutual. They were not only learning from humans, they were also influencing them. Ethan, who had been a solitary man, was growing stronger, more confident, and more strategic because of their presence. The next morning, they decided to venture closer to the town to gather supplies. The forest provided protection, but they needed tools, food, and communication devices. The trip required careful planning. Lyra studied the layout, Vexa prepared quick escape routes, and Ethan coordinated timing. Together, they moved like a well-oiled machine, blending human and alien methods of survival. As they approached the outskirts of the town, they noticed something unusual. A few unfamiliar figures were moving carefully through the streets, scanning and recording. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Hunters, they've arrived on Earth." Vexa clenched her fists. "Finally, some action. Let's make sure they regret coming here." Ethan remained calm. "We don't fight them head-on. We use what we've learned: traps, distractions, and human ingenuity. Patience, misdirection, and strategy will win." They set to work. Vexa and Lyra created false signals and decoys, hiding them in areas the hunters were likely to investigate. Ethan coordinated the use of town terrain, alleyways, fences, and buildings to mislead the intruders. Every step was calculated. The hunters, despite their advanced technology, were being drawn into confusion. The twins marveled at how humans thought. Ethan's ideas were simple but effective. They combined their alien abilities with human creativity, creating solutions no single species could accomplish alone. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of pride, not in royalty, not in titles, but in cooperation and teamwork. By evening, the hunters were thoroughly misled. Their sensors showed multiple false locations, and their tracking equipment was disrupted by the twins' clever traps. Lyra and Vexa whispered in excitement. "It worked," Lyra said softly. Vexa laughed. "Humans and aliens together, unstoppable. I like this Earth." Ethan smiled. "We make a good team, but we must remain vigilant. They will adapt. We cannot let our guard down." The forest had become a classroom, a training ground, and a battlefield. Each day, the twins learned more about human courage and ingenuity. They observed Ethan's quick thinking, his ability to remain calm under pressure, and his knack for turning ordinary items into tools of strategy. At night, they discussed what they had learned. Lyra reflected on the strengths of humans, noting their resilience, adaptability, and creativity. Vexa highlighted their courage, empathy, and willingness to take risks. Ethan, in turn, expressed his admiration for the twins' intelligence, speed, and ability to plan under extreme pressure. Their bond grew stronger, not only as survivors, but as a team united by trust and respect. Lyra and Vexa were no longer just servants, they were partners. They had chosen to serve Ethan not out of desperation, but because they recognized human potential. In return, Ethan trusted them with his safety and strategies, relying on their alien abilities to outmaneuver their pursuers. Days turned into weeks, and the twins began to adapt more to human ways. They learned to cook Earth food better, blend in seamlessly in the town when necessary, and communicate effectively with humans without revealing their true identity. Every small success reinforced their admiration for humanity. One afternoon, as they practiced setting a decoy system in the forest, Lyra spoke thoughtfully. Ethan, we have learned more than survival skills here. We have learned the value of trust, patience, and courage. Humans are extraordinary not because of power or technology, but because of the heart and mind. Vexa nodded. And we have learned that serving someone is not weakness. It is respect, loyalty, and an opportunity to learn. I never thought being a maid could mean so much. Ethan smiled at them, feeling proud. You two have grown more in a few weeks than most humans ever do. And you've taught me something too, that even the smallest ideas, when combined with courage and strategy, can overcome challenges that seem impossible. The hunters were still out there, lurking in the shadows of the galaxy. But Lyra, Vexa, and Ethan had proven that cooperation, ingenuity, and trust could create strength far beyond any weapon or power. They were ready for whatever would come next together. As night fell over the forest, the trio gathered around their small fire. Lyra glanced at the stars and whispered, "Earth has shown us a new kind of royalty, one not defined by crowns or titles, but by courage, wisdom, and heart." Vexa grinned. "And humans are the best teachers. I think we'll survive this adventure and maybe even thrive." Ethan looked at them with quiet admiration. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. You're not just aliens hiding on Earth. You're part of this team, and together there's nothing we cannot overcome." The fire crackled, the stars shone above, and the three of them sat in silent agreement. Danger still waited beyond the forest, but they were ready. Lyra and Vexa had learned the strength of humans, and Ethan had discovered the brilliance of alien minds. Together, they were more than just survivors. They were a force united across worlds. The forest was quiet, but tension hung in the air. Lyra, Vexa, and Ethan knew that the alien hunters from Zithra were drawing closer. Their previous efforts at misdirection had bought them time, but the hunters were skilled and persistent. This would be their final challenge, a confrontation that would test everything they had learned. Ethan gathered the twins around a small clearing. "This is it," he said. "We can't run forever. We need a plan that uses everything we've learned, the forest, your abilities, and human creativity. We can outsmart them, not outfight them." Lyra nodded, her sharp mind already calculating. "We will set traps to mislead their sensors, use the terrain to our advantage, and create multiple escape routes. We have the knowledge and strategy, but we must act as one." Vexa's eyes sparkled with determination. "Finally, some real action. Let's show them humans and aliens together are unstoppable." They spent the day preparing. Lyra analyzed the hunters' approach patterns, predicting where they would enter the forest and how they would search. Vexa set up physical and digital diversions, using her speed and agility to place decoys that would confuse even the most advanced sensors. Ethan positioned themselves strategically, using the natural landscape, rivers, cliffs, and trees, to create obstacles and hideouts. By nightfall, everything was in place. The forest seemed calm, but every shadow, every rustle of leaves carried potential danger. The hunters arrived silently, their ships hovering above, scanning for energy signatures. They were confident and methodical, expecting an easy capture. They had no idea what awaited them. Lyra signaled to Ethan and Vexa. "Now, activate the first decoy." Lights blinked in the trees, holographic images of two figures mimicking the twins' movements. The hunters' sensors detected them immediately, and their ships adjusted course. Meanwhile, Vexa created a series of subtle noises along false trails, leading the hunters away from the real hiding spots. Ethan guided them silently through the forest, keeping low and moving quickly. Every step was calculated, every action deliberate. They were no longer just surviving, they were leading, outsmarting, and controlling the battlefield. The hunters realized something was wrong. Their sensors kept giving conflicting information. Lyra and Vexa used this to their advantage, moving silently through the forest while the hunters followed false leads. The twins' alien abilities, speed, agility, and sharp senses, combined with Ethan's human ingenuity, made them almost impossible to track. Hours passed as the hunters struggled to locate the real twins. Ethan whispered, "Stay calm, they're frustrated." That's when they make mistakes. Finally, the hunters made a critical error. One of their ships descended too low, trying to scan the river that Ethan had chosen as a natural barrier. Vexa had prepared for this moment. Using a small device she had fashioned from parts collected in town, she created a reflective field that confused the ship's sensors. The vessel, unable to distinguish reality from the decoy, retreated in confusion. Lyra smiled faintly. They underestimated human ingenuity. And teamwork, Vexa laughed quietly. We make a great team, aliens and humans together unbeatable. Ethan nodded. It's not about fighting, it's about thinking, observing, and adapting. That's why we succeed. The hunters were forced to retreat temporarily, confused and misled by the twins' clever tactics. They would regroup, but the message was clear. Earth was not an easy target, and these humans and their alien allies were formidable. With the immediate danger gone, the trio returned to their temporary camp. Exhausted but relieved, they sat by the fire. Lyra and Vexa looked at Ethan with admiration. "You've taught us so much," Lyra said softly. "Not just survival skills, but human creativity, patience, and courage. We never realized how strong humans could be." Vexa added with a grin, "And you've shown us that teamwork, humans and aliens working together, is unbeatable. We've learned more from you in these weeks than in our whole life on Zithera." Ethan smiled. "And I've learned from you too. You've taught me strategy, patience, and how to think beyond human limits. Together, we've created something stronger than either species alone." Days passed and life slowly began to settle into a new normal. The hunters remained a distant threat, but the twins were no longer helpless. They had learned to blend in, plan, and act with precision. More importantly, they had grown to respect and admire humans, not for technology or weapons, but for courage, ingenuity, and heart. One morning, Lyra and Vexa walked into town with Ethan, disguised as ordinary humans. They moved confidently, blending in with the townspeople while gathering supplies. The twins marveled at how humans lived simply yet achieved so much. They admired the way humans cooperated, adapted, and protected each other without the need for advanced technology. "This is remarkable," Lyra whispered. "Humans thrive on ingenuity, courage, and community. It's not power that makes them strong, it's their heart." Vexa nodded. "And their creativity. Humans can turn anything ordinary into something extraordinary. That's why we trust Ethan. That's why we chose to serve him, not out of weakness, but respect." Back at their forest camp, the trio prepared for the hunters' eventual return. They fortified their shelters, refined their traps, and studied human and alien strategies alike. The twins were no longer just students. They were active participants in planning, using their alien abilities in harmony with human creativity. As weeks passed, the hunters made several attempts to approach Earth, but each time they were outsmarted. False signals, decoys, and clever maneuvers thwarted their plans. Lyra, Vexa, and Ethan worked seamlessly, combining human observation and alien skill to protect themselves and their small corner of the world. Finally, after the last failed attempt by the hunters, it became clear that the twins were safe, for now. They had survived threats from their home world, adapted to a new planet, and forged a bond that transcended species. One evening, sitting by the fire under a sky filled with stars, Lyra reflected on everything that had happened. "We came here as fugitives," she said softly. "Afraid, alone, and uncertain, but Earth has taught us strength, courage, and the power of cooperation. Humans inspire us in ways we never imagined." Vexa leaned back against a tree, smiling. "And we've taught humans a few things too, about thinking ahead, speed, and careful planning. Together, we're stronger than any threat from Zithera." Ethan watched them, feeling a deep sense of pride and admiration. "You've grown so much, both of you, and you've shown me the potential of partnership across worlds. We've survived because of trust, courage, and cleverness. That's the real strength here, not weapons or titles, but what's in our hearts and minds." The twins nodded, understanding the truth in his words. They had learned that strength came not from royalty or alien technology, but from courage, intelligence, and the ability to work together. Lyra looked at the night sky. "One day, we may return to Zithera, but we will carry these lessons with us. We will remember that humans are extraordinary, not because of what they have, but because of who they are." Vexa grinned. "And in the meantime, we have a home here, a new life, a chance to serve, learn, and grow." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of the journey behind them and the promise of the future ahead. "You're not just my guests or helpers. You're my friends, my partners. Together, we've faced impossible odds and come out stronger. And I know we will continue to thrive, no matter what comes next." The fire crackled, the stars shone above, and the forest was quiet. For the first time since their escape, Lyra and Vexa felt truly safe. They had found a home on Earth, not just a place to hide, but a place to grow, learn, and inspire. The hunters from Zithra were defeated by intelligence, strategy, and the unique combination of human and alien strengths. Lyra and Vexa's admiration for humans had deepened into respect and trust, and Ethan had learned to value qualities beyond human limits: alien agility, intelligence, and foresight. In this quiet corner of the universe, two alien princess twins had found a new purpose. They were no longer defined by crowns, titles, or fear. They were defined by courage, cooperation, and the lessons of a species that thrived through heart, mind, and ingenuity. Lyra and Vexa had come to Earth as fugitives, seeking refuge. But they had found something far greater: a family, a home, and a new understanding of what it meant to be strong. Humans had taught them that greatness was not measured by power, but by courage, intelligence, kindness, and the ability to inspire others. And so, in a small forest on a quiet blue planet, the twins began a new life. They served, learned, and grew, not as helpless refugees, but as empowered beings who respected humans, admired their ingenuity, and embraced the adventure of life on Earth. The forest was calm, the hunters defeated, and the future was bright. Together, humans and aliens had created a bond beyond worlds, proving that courage, intelligence, and trust could overcome any threat. And for Lyra, Vexa, and Ethan, this was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey, a journey of friendship, growth, and new beginnings.